Hello everyone, it's Hudson Henry, and I'm really stoked to show you some of the crazy capabilities of Photo RAW 2018's HDR engine. And I'm going to jump in here, highlight these three really high contrast images from last week's family trip. I was in Kauai for a wedding. And I captured these three images with my new Nikon D850, which has a ton of dynamic range, but in a situation like I faced here in Waimea Canyon, there's more contrast than I trust that sensor to be able to capture in a single frame. So I'm going to go ahead and bracket a scene like that a couple stops apart. So here I captured it in three images on my tripod. I just clicked those three images, and without even touching a slider, these images are all just straight out of the camera. I've clicked on the HDR button and browse, and boom, that quick I'm presented with a preview window of how those images are going to look blended together. And you can kind of choose. I'm a person who's always liked a really natural look to my HDRs. I haven't in the past even used automated HDR software. I'll just hand blend different exposures and layers to get the look I'm looking for. But here you could choose surreal. You know, if you're the HDR person that wants that kind of neon electric HDR look, you can start out that way. I'm going to be a person that prefers my default look to be just standard. I can choose where, when I'm done kind of getting my initial look, I want to open the file. I'm going to choose to open it in effects. And I'm going to click on the least exposed image in my bracketed series to kind of start out with the sky looking a little bit more like I want. There we go. And I'm going to hold down the J key, and I'm just going to move develop sliders. These are all non-destructive metadata edits. You can see as I move whites up, I'm losing that highlight detail in the sky. I want to make sure I'm preserving that. I'm going to do the same thing with the black slider. I'm going to pull it back to where I'm just losing some shadow detail on these rocks here. And then watch what happens with the shadows. I've just got all of that blended high dynamic range, high bit depth data from all three of those images that I can blend here. I can adjust my midtones. I'm probably going to pull contrast back a little bit. You know, you're going to want to kind of get it to taste. We're dealing with a high contrast image. I often bump it back just a little bit. Often run structure up just a touch. That's kind of like an initial dynamic contrast for me. Just gives the image a little more pop. And in a hazy morning situation like this, there was rain coming through. It's very, very hazy. I can get a little more clarity, a little more detail in the sky and in the canyon walls by pulling that haze slider back a little bit. I might adjust color temperature slightly. I like that ON1 has also included an effects filter, the HDR look filter, at this initial phase, and I can go through and kind of adjust the compression to taste. I can get that sort of surreal look, or I can tone it back just a little bit. I'm a person who's probably going to tone it back just a touch. And when I click save, it's going to take it a little bit of time, but it's going to open this file, create this new high bit depth file, and open it in effects for me. And so now that it's built that file, it's opened it in effects, and that HDR look filter that we were messing around with, it's still right here. I could adjust any of its sliders, maybe add a little bit of clarity. Maybe I want to go ahead and mask just a little bit. Let's set our opacity down a little bit and maybe just mask a little bit of that HDR look out of the edge of this canyon wall just a little bit if I feel like it's creating just a tiny bit of haloing in here. You know, real simple to go in and do any masking that we want. I could mask the effect out of sort of the cloud edges if I wanted to, because I feel like they're getting just a little bit crunchy and I don't like a lot of contrast and HDR look in my clouds. So boom, just kind of brush some of that out. And of course, you know, we're still working with all metadata, non-destructive raw edits. That's the part that I just love. I could come in here, add some dynamic contrast. And I've got my own style here that's a little bit lighter, a little softer touch, and I can pull the opacity back on that a little bit, just bring that pop that I'm looking for into the image. I could go ahead, add a little color enhancer, and maybe I want to look at desert, I'm guessing, for this. Boom, take a look at what we're getting here. And the neat thing is, if I want to go back and look at the develop sliders that I did when I was first creating this, they're all preserved. I could go back, re-edit any piece of this that I want. If I hop down here and click on the preview button, see just how dramatic that change is that we've accomplished here. Really, really cool stuff, and a huge, huge time saver for me, because in the past, to get this kind of natural look, blending different exposures, I would have to go in and kind of hand paint the shadow details or the highlight details back in by blending multiple images and layers. This way, it's just a button click and some slider moves. Great stuff. I'm really, really enjoying Photo RAW 2018.